I don't know how you decide on all your gifts and presents and so on, then sometimes we don't have a lot of time. I usually run right up to the line at Christmas, and rather than go out and buy a bunch of gifts, I usually make them. And this is an idea I came up with last Christmas, and I made several of these. And this is just literally a piece of plywood with grooves cut into it, and it makes a very nice tray. So added to that one, I've put a handle on this one, and I'm going to show you. I've done most of the work just so it's not repetitive for you. And so I'm going to walk you through how I've got to these different stages. The first piece, I've left a little bit of everything so I can show you. So this handle is cut and fitted. This one's got to be shaped. This has got to be cut. So I'm going to plough this first, and hopefully the grain will be in my favour. So I have a plough plane, and if you don't have a plough plane, I don't know what you'll do. But a plough plane is really a handy tool to have. So I'm going to run this in. So I've got my plough plane set 3/16 from the bottom to the side of the cutter. So that will leave a 3/16 strip here, and then I've got a 1/4 inch cutter in there. And I start here, and I start ploughing, and I'm ploughing 1/8 of an inch deep. You don't need any more than that. Now I'm ploughing this in the vise because the vise is nice and solid. Now for you, you might not be very comfortable with that. And if you do have a difficulty, you might find some other way of clamping it. But this is the easiest way for me, and I've done it all my life, and it works great for me. So lateral pressure on the side going in on the fence, and I can move along this way a little bit more, elevate it, and I can only go as far as this shoe goes, this fence. So I'm going to there. Now it's bottomed out. This shoe guarantees the depth. So I've got the depth I want. Now I've got more than enough that I need for this piece, but I'm going to go in here to show you how I get this other end. So I come in now from this end, keep working it. These planes always clog, and there is no way of that, where nobody has ever come up with anything that stops it clogging. So we just go in with a knife and clear the throat. So I'm going down until I get to depth. There, I've got to depth, and I've got this midsection to do, and I can come out a little bit more. So I've got a good 6 inches in the vise there, and that dealt with everything I needed it to do. Now if I was doing this double groove, which I have on here, I've got a double groove. I literally flip over and run this way, exactly the same as I just did, and I start ploughing this side. It's exactly the same. So I'm not going to do it because it's self-explanatory. So what I've got to do now is I've got to cut this one to length. All very simple. I'll go with the knife, I think. So I'm going to go with the knife wall all the way around, and hopefully when I saw, I'll get a very nice, crisp, clean edge. So there, one, up onto the edge, onto the top, flip over with the square so you're registering the stock against the same reference face, and same again, although on this distance it won't make any difference. So now we're going to cross cut that with a gent saw. So I'm going to go straight in with the saw right up against the side of the kerf of the knife wall. Drop my hand quite quickly, support the piece of wood, and I have, hopefully, look, I got a nice cross-cut piece that's really great. It's exactly the same length as the other. Here I've got something that gives me a 1 3/8 diameter radius ready to go, and I'm going to focus one end of the radius on the end and the other one on the top, and I'm going to make my marks. So I get a good radius. Now, on the radius on these, it's going to be different, so don't copy this onto those. What we do now is we take a saw rasp, and I've got coarse on one side and fine on the other, and I can take the bulk of the waste off, roughly at 45 degrees, down to the line. I'll turn it around on the next one so you can see. Take off the bulk of the waste, and then flip over to your fine side and go gently, and you're looking to keep the rasp square so that it's even on the radius. Then we go with a flat file, 10-inch if you've got one, or a piece of sandpaper on a paddle. Just glue a piece of sandpaper to a stick of flat wood, and I go all the way over onto the end, and then I take the corners off. That's called taking the arris off or removing the arris. And that gives us a very nice section of wood. I've got to do this side because I can't continue with demonstrating without doing it. But you can probably, I'll put the ink line on. Let me ink that in so you can see it more clearly and you can see where I am going. And of course you can saw this corner off if you want to, but the saw rasp just works so efficiently, it's hardly worth introducing that as a tactic. Okay, coarse on this side now. So now I'm looking on the top here to see if I'm square across, because I can correct myself as I go, because we will probably have a bias. I'm going right up to that line, taking the next angle here and then another angle down here, gently, and then flip over and follow the radius like that. Keep it as square as you can. Switch tools, pick up your flat file, right onto the end, go into the end. That will clear out that saw curve. Then we take the arris off by following the radius at 45 degrees. And that's us, we are done. So this now should go onto here. And it does. So there we've got that one. This one is done. I have this one done, ready to go. Another radius here. I tried to keep it as simple as I could. So I used the same 1 3/8 inch, and that's an odd size, isn't it? 1 3/8. Why did I use 1 3/8? It was the last one I had on my template here. So up to the side and down on the end and make that mark just like that. Nice, crisp and clean. And you can, of course, saw that off. I'll do it just this once. I didn't do it on the others. So you can take the bulk off like that. Then go in with your rasp. I would not go with the coarse side because this is narrow plywood and these are narrow openings. Go with this side and suspend it and stop it from cutting too harshly. So I'm using a very light stroke, feathering it in as I go. I'm nearly there, a little bit more. And the file will work perfectly on this too. And of course these are too far apart for anybody to gauge whether they are perfectly sized. That's a pretty good profile. Break the corners again. And I am ready to, well, I've got that done. That's perfect. That's about as good as it gets. Let's do these two pieces. I said two, there's one piece, but one, I pull this one out. Now what I did for this, I'm going to do this one freehand. I did this freehand and then I held it up like that, see if the profile was the same, and it looked fine. I'm going to do the same on this one. So pop this out into the vise, and we're going to go with just the fine side. So I think I'm going to go change position here and come to this end, because I want to cut. This is end grain plywood, it's not with the grain, so I want to go against that grain. So here I go down. Now how deep am I going? Well, that groove, that plywood goes 1/8 into the groove. So I'm going down here to about 1/4 inch. And then I start lifting my hand. So I'm creating something of an oval or a quadrant of an ellipse, a quarter of an ellipse. See what I got? That works for me. I'm going to go to this end. Now I could have taken that one out and simply used that as a template now. But I liked the idea of eyeballing things and freehanding, because it's super, super, super efficient, but only if you get it right. I'm going with the flat file again. These flat files, if you've got a decent one, will give you a very smooth surface. You do not need to sand after you've filed it, really. Well, you don't need to, because these are cutting teeth, so they're not abrading, and that's the difference on this particular file type. I mean, not all files. So I've got my shape. I think that's pretty good. So I take the arris off with the file, follow the radius, I'm happy with that. Do I want to sand it? Probably. So I've got a little bit of 240 grit. Only because it's easier to sand when it's apart. This is a great project, and really what you're seeing me do now, it'll take you about 4 times longer to do yours. Now I've got this so that this is going to go in here, and I'm going to put a very small radius on this corner, on this top corner. You can see it on here. I've got a small radius just so you don't catch it. It looks like it's been finished. So put these two. Which way shall we do this? We take that out first. So this, I want to make sure I've got the right part for the right radius. I'm just going to go with the file. So I plane a flat on here at 45 degrees, and there's my flat, and my flat is about 1/8 of an inch wide, and then I bring the file from the flat top surface at an angle, and I start arcing over, arcing over, arcing over. That was pretty simple, wasn't it? Let's see, I'll go this way this time. Okay, flat on the top. Now you can use the saw rasp if you go gently, but there's really not much gain really from that. Over. Can you see I'm getting this long curve, just sweeping into that end grain? I've got to take the arris off there. It's just a little bit hard. Flip it round. Same again. I'll do the same on the bottom, if that's the bottom, which it is. So where's my piece? This piece of wood goes in here. And let's clamp these together in the vise. I did cut these accurately to length, or near enough. So I'm going to clamp these two in the vise, like this. And I'm going to just take my file, I'm going to file the two together. It's going to make a squealing noise, I'm sorry. I'll try and eliminate it. Same on this end. This will guarantee there being the right length. I keep moving around, that's going to lessen the squeal. I could go here as well. Will it lessen a little bit? And now this last little bit is I want to come in. I've got a hard edge there, so I come in now just like that, just to give it that extra refinement. And all that's left to do now is to glue up. Can we do that? I'm not sure. Shall we do? Let's glue this together. I might do a little bit more refining on it just for a second, and then I'll be gluing it up. We are almost ready to glue up. I've got all the parts. I'm happy with the shaping. I've got everything together. Two things that I want to do is, one thing is I've done a dry run, so I know all the grooves take the plywood bottom. What do you do if it doesn't? Let's take a quick look. I've got a piece of plywood here, and if I took my pieces, one of these pieces, it actually doesn't go on, and that could be devastating. And that's because not all plywoods are created equal. If you buy metric plywood, usually it'll be 6mm, 5mm, 4mm. It's going to be much nearer. But if you buy 1/4 inch plywood, the chances are it's going to be a nominal 1/4 inch, which means that was the size it started out before it was sanded, but it ends up being smaller. So I actually had a cutting iron that's 1/4 inch, just under 1/4 inch, and it suits this plywood really well. But this is what you do if it doesn't fit and you've got a few minutes. You take the plane, this is the underside, say, of the tray, and I just offer it to the plywood like this. Take a couple of strokes, see how it does. I've got a piece here. And now it's going on. Can you see this is self-supporting? So I didn't take very much off, but enough just to feather that underside, and that makes sure that that fits. So one task left to do now is we've got to center these on the piece of plywood. So I did a silly thing. I made these 10 1/4, and I've got 12 inches here. So if I had thought it through, I could have gone an even number. So I've got 1 3/4, which half of that will be 7/8 of an inch. So I'm going to take a pencil and mark 7/8 right there. Oops. I always give myself 2 marks so I can have a choice. That's not really the case. That's okay. So I've got 7/8 there. So these will go on those 2 lines. What do these come out at? So I'm flushing it with the end, and then I'm going to measure this. I've got 2 1/4, so that means I need to be 1 1/8 from the end. So I only need 1 mark, 1 1/8. That's that one, and I'll do the same on this one. So 1 1/8 is there. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of gluing now. I'm going to suggest that you glue these in first. And I'm going to run a bead of glue into the groove. And I don't want too much, and I don't want too little. So I'm going to just run a very thin bead. And I made a spreader that fits in. And I'm pushing it to the walls on each side as well, so that it's going to go up onto, now that's my handle going in. And I'm going to put this in the vise just for a few seconds. It doesn't need to be in for very long. While that one's gluing, I'll do this one. See, I'm careful how I place everything because I want it to go back the same way, because that was part of doing the dry run, was to make sure everything fit, but it might not fit if it's in a different direction. So I've got, and I had an X on here, and I've got an X inside there, so I know this goes this way. Great. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but can you, right in this corner here, I can see very fine bubbles of glue, and the same on this side. That means the glue went down at the bottom, and when I put it in the vise, it was pushing the glue right up into the side, so that's nicely glued to the walls. What's happening now with this is the groove is swelling, so it's going to actually make the groove smaller than I cut it, and the plywood is swelling, and that's going to be bigger. So now that's expanding into the glue, and it's tightening everything up. So let's do the same with this one. Keep it nice and square to the vice jaws. Give it a little squeeze in the vice. Leave that for a second. Let's do these now. So I would definitely recommend that you, when you do your trial run, is put a clamp on these, but remember, you can't over clamp this. If this is too tight, it can split the wood. So go in very carefully when you do that. I'm using the spreader not really to spread it so much as to make sure that it goes onto the walls as well. So it's going into the corners, in other words, mostly. And when it goes into the corners, the only way that glue can go is up along the wall of the groove. And that gives me the security I want. So I'm on my line. I'm down very nicely. Same on this one. Perfect. Don't you love woodworking? There isn't much joinery in this. This isn't really joinery, but that's not what I was looking for with this. I wanted a quick, simple project that you could do at home and use your plow plane. Now what I would do with this now is I would probably, ooh, I'm a little bit off there, so I need to tap this here. Great. Take this out. I'm going to put this in the vise, and I'm going to turn it upside down so these are on top of the bars in the vise. That will elevate it to a higher position, and it'll give me the full length of the jaws and the full width of them. See, I put pressure on and then I wait. Give it a little few seconds, let the glue disperse inside, give it one extra nudge like that, and I can see the glue has come out of the ends, but not excessively. And I haven't got any glue coming on the top and bottom really, but I'm happy with it. I've got long grain gluing in there. The nice thing about this plywood is it's not going to cause me any issues. A little bit of dust in there. So now I can glue these on. I think I can. Yeah. I'm just going to give myself a visual just so I can see how I feel about it. This one feels a little bit loose and this one feels a little bit tight. And that could be that I fit them differently. Now then, what I've got now is I've got both of them loose. Not very loose. Okay, bead of glue. And this time we have to put our pressure on these thoughtfully, because we've got those handles in place. I could have left the handles off, but I feel pretty good about everything. What I haven't tested is whether my vise is big enough to apply pressure yet. If it isn't, I'll just go with clamps. Wow. So there you have it. So whatever time it took me to do this, you could probably magnify it 4 times. I think it will go in the vise. I think it will. So if I put this low down, go right underneath the handles, and I'm on my lines, that looks great. Everything is glued up. The joints, they've bottomed out in the joints, I feel very happy with that. You could put clamps on here, but these are not going to come off. That's great. So all I need to do now, 2 or 3 minutes with some finish on here. I'm going to do that next. I'm about to put that coat of finish on. I've left this glued up. An hour, 2 hours is plenty. And you can take it out of the clamps or whatever after that time. Clean up the little bits of glue that might have oozed out somewhere with a chisel. And I never introduce any water to my work. I don't like it. So I just got a bit of protection on the bench. So I'm ready to apply the finish. I went over it. I put a little bit of sandpaper to it. I'm using Osmo oil for this because I've been using this for a while now, and it's really a tried and tested oil. It's called the original hard wax finish, and this is a satin version of it. So there we go. So all you do, this is the amazing thing about this, you can use any brush you like if you want to brush it on. I don't like to brush it on because I've got to clean the brush, and that's not always easy with this type of finish. So I'm going to go with the just a piece of paper towel. It's plenty for this. If I was doing this on a big project using the same material, I would probably just go with a cloth, a soft cloth, and then I would wipe it on. This is the amazing thing about this, and a lot of people will be used to this type of finish anyway. But for those of you that don't or new to finishing, you wipe it on and wipe it off, and you wipe it off vigorously as though you're trying to remove every ounce of finish that you just applied on it. You just pretty much go for it, and that's what I would do. That's what I will be doing in a minute. I'll just go over it with another paper towel. Again, I can use paper towel for this. It's fine. It gets everything off. Great. So I'm going to do that with this. This is just paper towel, a thicker one of the better quality ones, not the one that disintegrates as soon as it has any contact with any liquid. So wipe it off vigorously. Make sure you get right into the cracks. Make sure you don't leave any build-up anywhere, because if you leave build-up with this finish, it doesn't really cure, it doesn't dry, and so you end up with globs that don't dry. That's my underside done, and I might go back over that in a minute and take off a little bit more. I'm going to go onto the plywood edges, and I like the stripes. If anybody has any question about using plywood, I'm using a good grade. I'm using a birch plywood. And it's a very top quality plywood, and it stays flat and it lasts for decades. You won't find it disintegrating, but it's good to catch the edges of your plywood so you don't have any intake of water or moisture, because this is a serving tray and we're going to be serving drinks, hot drinks of tea on it, probably, maybe an odd coffee, but tea for me is great. So I'm doing the awkward edges, the upstands, rounded edges, the corners of the plywood. Just get it on, and you're really putting it on and almost pulling it off with the same piece of paper, getting into the corners. It can't get simpler than that. I don't know which other finish I would use these days. I found this really acceptable on just about everything, and I use it on dining tables, coffee tables, furniture. It's great to use. So yes, I'm plonking it down on that paper, on the cardboard, because I can, and you can't spoil this finish. It's one of those finishes that you put on, wipe off. And how many coats do I put on? I'm going to put probably 3 coats on, and see how it looks. But you can, if you do get some nibbing, that's where the grain stands up because you've applied a fluid, and it stays standing, so it feels a bit rough. If that happens, and it doesn't always happen, just go in with a mild abrasive, something like 320 grit, sandpaper, and then just wipe it off, wipe it over the surface, and it'll come absolutely silky smooth. The nice thing about this finish is you won't get any runs if you wipe it off. See where I'm putting my fingers? Right on the finish that I just wiped. Absolutely fine with this. You wouldn't do that with polyurethane, you wouldn't do it with many other finishes, you wouldn't do it with shellacs, but you can do it with this. So there we go. I'm back on the underside now. Going back with, I'm going to go with a fresh piece of paper. This will be my last rub, and then I'll leave it for 4 or 5 hours, something like that, and then I'll go back in and do another coat. Leave it for another 4 or 5 hours, or even overnight if you want to, and then go back in and put that last coat on if you think it needs it. It probably will. Oops, there's some I missed. Look at that whole side I didn't get. See where I've got this resting on the bench, even though I've just wiped it? Because I'm trying to get, almost like I said, I'm almost as though I'm trying to wipe all the finish off, which of course I can't. Now this feels silky smooth under the paper, so I haven't got any grain rising. I doubt whether I will have to use any abrasive. And that's basically it. So what do you do now? I would probably put a couple of sticks underneath it. Something like that, a pencil on the other side. Just leave it elevated, and that will, which way? I'll go there. I'll go there. And just leave it, let it dry. It will be dry in 5 hours. When you get rid of these things, I keep a jar like this and put them inside. That's an airtight jar, because some finishes like this one can self-combust. They're spontaneously combusting, especially in hot climates, hot places. So seal it in there and you're good to, and then when it dries you can bin it according to your local council guidelines. So there you have it. I have got my tray, it's ready to go, I can use it now. I just wonder if you've thought about the simplicity of this project. That's what I wanted, a nice simple project, and I got it. A few grooves in a piece of walnut, some birch plywood, handles on the side, birch plywood, everything's good to go. It's a simple project, half a day, maybe less than that. And actually you could gang it up and probably do 5 or 6 of these in a day quite comfortably. And guess what? You've got your birthday presents, your Christmas presents, you've got trays for the house, you've got trays for friends. It's an amazing little project.